Hello and welcome back to another video tutorial here at Geekatplay Studios. My name is Gary Miller. I created this render the other day because I wanted to create a dense, murky, thick underwater scene, and I created these little floating models in here to resemble something like spores or something. And I think Vue has a great ability to create murky, thick, atmospheric underwater scenes, but there's something that's missing in here that Vue does not have the ability, or at least not easily, to create, and that is to make that underwater floating debris. If you look at movies or documentaries that take place underwater, you've always got that debris, whether it's plant life or little bits of chewed up fish that's just floating by, and just regular junk. Um, you've always got that stuff in the water, and it always seems to be moving very slowly on its own little underwater current. And to create that effect and make this scene more believable, I figured the best way to do that is to come over here and do this in photo. Well, here is the scene without the debris, and I'm going to activate these two layers here, and this is the scene with the debris. And if you look at it, you can see all these little specks. Some of them are blurred in a direction that shows that they are moving. Some of them appear to be kind of stagnant and just floating in midair. And I think it's really believable, and I wanted to share this technique with you today. So let me delete these layers. I'm going to create a new layer, come up here to Edit, Fill, and I'm going to fill this in with 50% gray. Now if you've seen any of my tutorials for creating snow or creating a realistic star field, to create this underwater debris, it's going to follow pretty much the same formula with very slight deviations. So with this layer filled in with 50% gray, I'm going to come up here to Filter, Noise, Add Noise, and I want the amount to be 400, Gaussian Blur checked under the Distribution, and Monochromatic. Now I'm going to come up here to Filter, Artistic, and Fresco. And what this will do is it will give me, well, I don't know how to describe it, but it will give me this look, this appearance. Something I've noticed when I've looked at pictures to come up with this tutorial of underwater floating debris is it has various levels of opacity. It's stringy, fleshy material. Some of it is like jelly, almost cartilage-like. And I found that running this filter after running noise will make it very believable. So I'm going to go with Fresco, and brush size I want 2, brush detail 8, texture 1. Feel free to play with these values however you like, and I'm going to hit OK. Let me zoom in here a little bit. I'm going to hit Control and L to bring up my levels, and I'm going to adjust my shadow slider here and fade out a lot of the debris. If I come up too much, well, then it's all gone. So I'm just going to come up a little bit like that. In this case, I'd rather have too little than too much, because I can always duplicate my layers and move them around and add more. So I am going to go with that amount right there and click OK. Now I'm going to come over here to my Channels tab. I'm going to hold down Control and click on the thumbnail here next to RGB. And now up here you might be able to see this little twinkling going on. What I have done is I have loaded the luminance value of this layer as a selection. So I'm going to come back over to Layers, create a new layer above that, and with white as my foreground, I'm going to hit Alt, Delete, and fill that selected area in with white. I will hide my black layer, hit Control Delete to deselect. Now I have taken the white the luminance value of this black layer that had all that noise on it and applied it to a new layer without the black background. And I like that. Now I want to add a little bit of movement to this, as though these little pieces of debris are floating on their own, being carried along by a little current. So I'm going to come up here to distort and shear. Now what shear will allow me to do is it will allow me to essentially warp this layer and create a little bit of movement in here with my debris. So I'm just going to create a very slight S-curve, and I'm going to click OK. And I like that. It wasn't enough though, so I will hit shear again. And now I've got some blurring going on, and I like that. It almost looks as though these spores, as they are going through the water, they are disturbing the current and causing these little pieces of debris to swirl around them. So I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to duplicate that layer, hide the bottom one. Now what I want to do is zoom out, and to create some believable depth to this image, I'm going to stretch this one out and move it around till I find a level of debris or a particular look that I like, and I guess that will be okay. Now because I have two layers, one with the pieces of debris that are large and one with the pieces of debris that are small, it creates added depth. And you'll see once I apply a cloud mask to this and add a little blur, it'll come in a little bit better. So on this layer, I'm going to add a mask, come up here to filter and render and run my clouds layer, and that removes a lot of that excess debris that I don't want. Hide that, come back down to this layer, apply a layer mask to that, filter, and I'll do a cloud layer on that one. And I think I do want to add a little bit of a Gaussian blur to this. I don't want to be on my mask, I want to be on the actual layer itself. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Let's adjust my slider till it's, I guess that looks good, 1.3 for the radius on that. And I will activate my larger copy of my floating debris, and I'll put some Gaussian blur into that too. Just trying to find something that looks good on the eye. Alright, let me click OK. Now let me zoom in here and let's look at our results. That looks very convincing, except I think it's a little bright, so I'm going to bring the opacity down on both these layers, and let's look at that. Now that looks like that is some floating debris that is in here underwater in our image, and I just don't know of a way to do this quickly, and certainly not with this level of control that we've got here in Photoshop. So I think this is a really easy and effective way, convincing way, to create underwater floating debris in your underwater renders right here in Photoshop. So that's it for this tutorial. Thanks for watching here at Geekatplay Studios. My name's Gary Miller. Have a good day.